Back to the second addition to this non-live video, of which I go through whatever happens on my computer. I go through different things that I'm trying to do. Already played all this. This is a HAO perspective rather than the TES that I was working on in the previous video. Basically what I do is just doom scroll, but a different type of doom scroll, of which I find meaningful activities to do. This video is kind of interesting. Algorithmic thinking, peak finding. I'm going to save that to my playlist. Okay. Alright. Steve Jobs interview. Save that for okay. Nostalgia playlist. Save that to Puberty 2.0. Katie Clark. Let's respond to her.
This may be the last ad you ever see. Because with the free ad block extension from Capital One Shop.
In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how to eliminate self-sabotage forever. The truth is, the only person standing between you and your desired reality is you. How many times have you really wanted something and you were so sure on it, you set the goal, and yet you found yourself procrastinating? You found yourself just stabbing yourself in your own back, doing all of this pointless stuff, feeding into all of these distractions that are so contrary to what you know you want. That is self-sabotage. The amount of things that you're blocking yourself from because you're caught up in self-sabotage is insane. So to put it simply, self-sabotage is when you unconsciously get in your own way with taking actions that do not align with your desired reality. And the frustrating thing about self-sabotage is you can know consciously that what you're doing is not aligned, but you can't figure out why you're acting like this. Why can't you just align with the things that you want to align with? So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down why self-sabotage happens, and then we're going to go through 3 very practical steps for you to figure out why you're sabotaging right now on what you say you want and how to actually overcome it, so that you can actually align all of you, even the unconscious parts of you, with your desired reality, and you can move towards it with ease. You might be thinking that I got really good at art, by the way. This was not me, so shout out MX for the art, because I could not draw like this. You're going to see my own stick figures in a minute, and you're going to realize that my artistic capabilities are not at this level, so look at the difference. Wow. I couldn't even pretend to pass those stick figures off as my own, which is... I wouldn't lie to you guys about that anyway. Okay, why? Why do we self-sabotage? You've probably asked yourself this. Why am I like this? Why can't I just stick to the plan? Why can't I just align with the things that I know I want? Why? Okay, first of all, you've got to realize that external reality is just a mirror of your internal reality, of your state of consciousness, of your frequency. And when I say external reality, I'm also referring to your physical actions, okay? So external reality is interchangeable with the physical world, and part of the physical world is your physical actions that you take. All of that is driven by your internal reality. By your internal reality, I mean your identity, your beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, and your attention, your focus, what you're focusing on. So every single action that you take, it's just a mirror of the overall state of consciousness that you have. Self-sabotage in the physical world shows you a misalignment in your thoughts, your beliefs, your focus, or your emotions in your internal world, because reality is a mirror. Self-sabotage is just a symptom of an internal misalignment with your desired reality. That is all. Think about it for a second. If you have 100% conviction, if you were fully on board in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your emotions, in your focus, in your identity, with your desired reality, would you sabotage? No, because you would have alignment, you would have conviction. And when you don't have conviction, you won't be committed. The end of. So the reason you lack conviction in your desired reality is because you are misaligned on some level internally. When you can solve for the misalignment, the self-sabotage, which is a mirror of your internal state, will fall away. If you think about even just for a minute, if you knew with 100% certainty that you could have your desired reality, like if you were absolutely certain that you could have it, that you deserved it, that you were the version of you right now who could handle it and have it, and it could be natural and easy and better than your current situation, and it was completely safe, would you sabotage yourself? No, because there would be no misalignment. So solving for self-sabotage is actually very simple. You identify the misalignment, you bring it into alignment, and the sabotage will stop.
I'd rather surf a tsunami than spend weeks waiting for a developer.
I'd rather bungee jump into a volcano than pay $200K for an app.
I'd rather dig to the Earth's core than waste time learning coding.
Ugh, so dramatic. But if you're tired of overpaying, waiting weeks, and learning code,
This is my attempt at the stick figure that you saw a minute ago. Okay.
She says, this girl named Katie Clark says, implementing a way to stop self-sabotage is by configuring misalignment to alignment.
Your ego, so that you don't expose a vulnerable ego trait. So self-sabotage is a method, basically, that the ego uses to stop you from even identifying what it is that's
She says it's the ego's trick, but we all know that the ego,
that is preventing you from
it's not as simple. Like, the ego does not simply identify like that. When you identify your psychological process with something like that, that's lower level thinking.
That I lived, and you can go back and watch like some of my first YouTube videos if you want to actually.
That could be seen as self-sabotage, and other people might say that they're correct in their judgment, but sometimes what you're doing with your time is actually necessary, and you don't have to push yourself to do things you don't want to do. It's like saying you can do whatever you want, why don't you do what you want to do? And then you realize, what if this person does something wrong or does something that is a problem? That's basically free will, but you're basically a slave to the free will that you have. That's why we need more complexity to arise to define what exactly we can do and what we can't do.
Emotional discomfort, and so I was just avoiding it. I was procrastinating, I was doing everything but, I was planning, I was doing everything but actually recording and posting content. Because even thinking about posting was causing me emotional discomfort, I ran away from it. That's what self-sabotage is. It's distracting yourself with this behavior, with this pattern, so you don't have to actually look at any potential discomfort or something that's going to be emotionally triggering for you. So that's what I did for weeks and weeks on end. Eventually I accepted, okay, I'm having this discomfort, I'm having this resistance, what is it? As soon as I accepted it, I was able to go into it and actually figure out that it was coming from an aspect of my ego. My ego, part of it was posting for validation when I first started posting on YouTube. And my first couple of videos got like 100, 200, 300 views. So the reason, the actual misalignment that I had was an ego trait of mine that wanted basically my next video to get 1 million views so that I would be validated, so that I would feel special, so that I could have that reassurance that, you know, I was special and I was going to be successful and whatever else. So there was an insecure part of my ego that was causing me to self-sabotage and not post. And when I stopped resisting the uncomfortable emotions that were driving me to sabotage and driving me to be so distracted from what I actually wanted, I was able to figure out what it was that actually was making me feel so bad about posting. It was this insecurity of my ego self. And then I was able to go in and say, okay, what does that part of me need to hear to let this go? So I reframed content. I didn't make it about validation. I didn't make it about worth. I redefined my value and my worth as separate from the outcomes, as separate from my achievements on YouTube or anything else. And then I was able to start defining creation as something different that had nothing to do with my value. And then this whole block went away and I was able to actually start posting. I was able to accept that maybe I wasn't that good yet. Maybe I didn't deserve 1 million views yet. And that actually allowed me to get good at making content, okay? And now I watch my old content back and I'm like, of course I wasn't getting 1 million views, but my ego was so wrapped up in that at the time that I couldn't see it. It can be very humbling, but it's very necessary if you want to actually grow and shed the parts of you that don't align with what you want. You need to have awareness and you need to have honesty and you need to step outside your ego.
I'm gonna skip a lot of this. So it's not about doing what you want, really, because how do you know what you want? How do you know exactly what you want if your personality constantly changes and you change your mind all the time? At one point you might know what you want, and another point you might not know what you want. So when you focus on what you want all the time, it makes it really selfish. And you have situations where one person is really narcissistic or selfish around you, and it's not just them, it's also like you doing that too to yourself. We already do it all the time nowadays. Probably did it for thousands of years. I'm gonna change this video.
Do not let people think you do not belong. Once you sit at these tables with folks with fancy titles and you talk to them and you go, oh, they ain't all that. This idea that somehow they are so special, they're so smart, they're so sophisticated. Not really. They've been exposed. They've been given the confidence of feeling like they belong. But if you sit down and talk to them, it turns out, that's my point. And the benefit for Michelle and me, because we came up, and at each stage, you know, you go to Harvard, and wow, it's Harvard. And then you find out, oh, Harvard's full of some fools and people that you would not put in charge of anything. But they're there, and there's some really amazing, brilliant people too. And then you go to the U.S. Senate. Everybody's represented, smart people and dumb people, good people and bad people. Now suddenly you're meeting at the group of 7 world leaders are all in a room in the United Nations. Oh, same thing. Turns out that there's some really smart, amazing world leaders, and there's some fools running countries. Do not let people think you do not belong. Once you sit at these tables with folks with fancy titles, and you talk to them, and you go, oh, they ain't all that. This.
How to speak brilliantly, free course.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
98% of people never learn how to solve their high-quality communication problems. This is not going to be your average video on removing filler words or pausing. This is for people who want to accomplish epic things with their speaking and lead others. This is also one of those videos too that I kind of hope doesn't go viral, because the world just cannot afford to have everyone using this method. this were public, then it would no longer work. Seriously, which is why I don't care about making a perfect intro for this video. But we are today
I'll be
going on a
back.
side quest